Okay, I'm pretty sure this is just Akachi and Kobayashi leaving. So I will let them go. And then we'll continue from there. Because Jack will call out to us. Oh, what did Marple say that Jack responded to?
If he's already been caught in something, then we can't afford mistakes when decoding the cipher.
True. That we can't.
Jack?
I was quite surprised upon Jack's interjection.
He insisted this had nothing to do with him, but he was curious about it after all. He must be worried for Mr. Mackenzie also. Thank God he stepped up.
What's that voice for?
Oh, don't mind me.
There's a chance the messages were written to mix us up. A ploy to distract us from something more sinister in the works. Could be at any rate. Your logic is sound, but diversion or not, this is clearly Mr. Mackenzie's handwriting. I should agree. The way his letters curl at the end is the sign. Can't notice such things when using a pen, but it's plain as day here.
Jack sought the notes he'd written on his desk for reference.
Even if some bloke mimicked the handwriting, it wouldn't be easy to do the sign for rabbits that are only seen when he jots things down in chalk. Though could be he was coerced.
Unintentionally, my eyes wandered over to Jack's notes and I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Your notes are impeccable, Jack.
Despite my efforts to hold it in, I squeaked out a tiny gasp.
You even copied the teacher's handwriting. What a gift you have.
You thick? I never said you could look! I take it this part neatly written in cursive is mine. Huh. Well done. It's from when he asked you to write on the board. You'd be polite to stop staring any time. As for this childish scrawl here, this must be Watson's. Very accurate indeed. That's mine? It can't be that terrible. Besides, I'm always the one jotting down clues during our cases. I need to prioritize speed over all else. I do plan on getting them together and putting my memoirs in a book, but until then I don't see the need to make it pretty. Save yourself the effort and purchase a typewriter. You can't write worth a damn. You don't have to mind it that much. Right. Isn't it about time we shifted focus towards decoding those messages?
With the mood considerably more cheery than before, we made our way to the library. I get to help out Jack this time. Once there, we put our heads together and started looking over each of the messages we had copied. Okay, this is Holmes explaining how ciphers work, so we can skip through that. Alright, so I want to look through there.
Let me see if I can find anything among the books on crimes. Mary, Queen of Scots, used a cipher when exchanging letters with the other conspirators in the plot to assassinate England's queen. A book that details the plot ought to have more regarding the cipher. The case is known as the Babington Plot, I believe. I started looking in the bookshelves farther inside the library. I searched through the top shelf of a particular bookcase after borrowing a stepladder, upon which good fortune finally came to me. Here we are! The Babington Plot, Execution and Error. This is perfect! I extended my hand out as far as I could reach, and just as I thought I had it... No!
I lost my balance. I'd fully expected a harsh landing on the floor, but no such thing came. Rather, the landing was a soft one.
You're heavy.
What? Jack! Why are you under me?
Never mind it. Just get off. How did you not see I was here?
Beg pardon. My mind was so wrapped up in the cipher business that I wasn't paying proper attention.
Ugh.
As I stood, Marple appeared from a neighboring bookshelf.
Everything all right? I heard a loud noise.
She fell from the ladder and onto...
Nothing at all, Marple. I only happened to drop a book, that's all.
I'd moved to cover Jack's mouth at such a speed that I nearly looked as if I were slapping him.
Oh, was it the book you needed, Emily? I believe so. I'm absolutely certain it will have what we're looking for. I'm glad to hear that. And if I may politely observe, I never knew you were so friendly with one another. Very interesting.
Sorry, girl. Not your turn anymore. Marple left the conversation at that and wandered off to a nearby bookshelf.
Ugh. For God's sake, off with you!
Please, Jack, don't tell the others about what just happened. Please?
And waste me breath talking about something so stupid. What noblewoman slaps her hand over someone's face? You sure you're all tough?
I do apologize. Really. It was more a reflex than on purpose. You're not mad with me, are you?
Aw, that half smile.
You're a right danger to yourself.
How?
Just try not to follow me yet again.
Like Marple, Jack chose a cryptic end to the conversation before leaving. Alright, well, I'm gonna help him out.
I wonder what yours says, Jack. Let's begin.
Jura.
Looks like a Caesar cipher, or Rot 13. Do you know what that is?
I wish I did, but no. What is it?
It's where each letter shifted a certain number of places before or after in the alphabet.
Okay. What?
Rot 13 has a letter switched by the 15th.
Oh, sorry. 13th. 13th one? Oh, because Rot 13. Okay. Hold on, I gotta get his accent down. It's so hard. So I'm like, what are you saying?
Rot 13 has a letter switched by the 14th one for it. Seeing as you got 26 to choose from.
Okay, I need to, like, write this down so that I can... So you said Jora, so that will be... Now, I actually just need to remember. Jora. So W... H... R is E... And A is N. When. Okay, so his first letter is when. Gotcha.
This here is what it'd look like. It ain't that hard, but if you didn't know it, it'd take a fair bit of time.
That would make the first word... When? When, then?
Spot on.
Yay! We got more smile. Okay, we're gonna skip through this and him being angry and wanting to kill Mr. Mackenzie. And then we'll see if he leaves us a nice little note. He did.
It's a Rot 13 Caesar cipher. This must be from Jack. I'll need to substitute each letter with the 113 letters after it in the alphabet. Which means...
You've got a mouth as loud as a dog barks. Best keep that in check, because I won't lift a finger if it lands you in hot water.
Well, I never! I don't need his help. What a vulgar thing to say.
Perhaps he could sense how I felt, because for all my glaring, Jack wasn't looking at me, and was instead very keen on staring at nothing.
I wonder if this is his way of saying he's concerned for me. Nonsense. Not with him. Lord, does he ever try to press my buttons?
I admitted to some irritation in how he expressed it, but a part of me was pleased to know he cared. I folded the message and placed it carefully in my pocket. He's just not very good at expressing himself is all. Alright, is it picnic time? Picnic time. We get to hold his hand this time? Oh, this is gonna be great. I think I can skip this. And go straight to Jack. Yes! Seeing as he was the last one, I went to invite Jack. Oh, I finally got to make use of that skip function. That's so nice. He was crouched over a distance away from everyone, arms wrapped around his ankles. I slowly approached him. I think I'll go and take his hand. Without a word, I took his hand in mine. What you gonna do, man? I admit to being nervous that he might reject me and shake it off, but to my relief, nothing of the sort happened. He simply glanced at me for a moment before returning his gaze downwards. He, too, had not said a word in response. Jack?
What?
How would you like to come have lunch with us?
Why?
Why? It's more fun eating in a group than on your own. Wouldn't you agree?
How would I know?
His tone was aggravated, but only to the degree at which it so often was, and nothing more.
You want company. Perhaps try asking the others.
Already done. They said they would love to come. All that's left is for you to say the very same thing.
You got too much free time on your hands, you know.
Jack's eyebrows pinched with a certain sort of disbelief, and yet even then he had taken no effort to pull away from my hand.
I didn't bring no lunch. You don't have to pay me any mind.
Well, I have a simple enough solution for that.
I've got no need to get on with everyone in the world like you.
Rejection. I felt a sudden heavy rock plop down at the pit of my stomach.
And there ain't a person here that's got the mad sense to get on with me.
Really now? Oh, but I'm absolutely certain there's one at least. She's right in front of you.
Huh?
Listen, you. I want to be your friend.
And maybe more? His eyes then grew wider than I had ever seen them.
And I promise you needn't fret over food. I've brought enough for everyone.
It's no bother.
None whatsoever. Well, come!
Wait! Don't pull!
I took his hand with a stronger grip and leant back to force him to stand. Then, his hand in mine, we hurried to where the rest of our friends were waiting. So bold, Emily. As we were the last to arrive and the weather was still beaming, lunch was soon to begin.
All right, please, have your fill.
One by one, I had taken out the lunch boxes from the basket Pendleton had prepared for me.
There's more than enough, Jack. I'll need you to eat as much as you can stomach.
A typically cold response, but he didn't leave, which I considered enough of a success. Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, because she makes one more remark about Jack, and then we will skip until maybe he helps us with packing up? Maybe? There he is, he's having a sandwich now. Jack, meanwhile, had been nibbling his way through a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich.
I'm so glad he's eating with us after all.
Alright, and then Lupin's having some trouble, so we'll skip ahead. He just has to keep his pecker up. Hey, it's our boy. As I was clearing everything away, I noticed Jack standing close by.
Is everything all right, Jack?
Here. For you.
Is this? He presented to me a single, somewhat creased envelope. Another letter! Penned in a gorgeous cursive at its center was Emily Whiteley. My smile naturally blossomed upon seeing it.
Thank you, Jack! You wrote me another one, didn't you? You've made me the happiest girl.
Oh my god, what is that? That's terrifying face! My boy! The blush does not go well with your dark under-eye raccoon eyes. Oh my goodness, that's too funny.
Don't know if you need to be that happy about it.
Can't I? Ever since we started, you've gradually opened up to me more in person.
I could feel us I could feel us grow her closer with each letter, each conversation, and I just knew telling him he made me the happiest girl was no lie. I'll get right on penning another letter for you.
Right.
Well then, I do believe that's given me the second wind I needed to tidy all this. Won't take me any time at all now. I placed Jack's letter in my pocket and went right to work clearing everything away. As I did, I heard the sound of footsteps on the grass behind me. It was Jack. I thought he left, but he instead reached for an empty basket. I was gonna say, like, you're not gonna leave me to pack all this by myself, are you?
Yeah, it's a big job for one. Let me help.
Jack! I can't with his face. He just looks like he's a dead person when he looks like this.
Not a problem. You got the letter. Might as well stay put.
Not at all. I could certainly use you. Together we went to work. Jack was quick to prove himself more capable at the whole affair than I was, as he had packed everything both with swiftness and neatness.
The food was good, you know.
Was it? I'm relieved to hear that. I didn't know what you liked, so I was a bit nervous wondering if anything would be to your taste.
I like the boiled eggs wrapped in meat. Those were good.
The Scotch eggs?
That's what you call them. Never fancied I'd dine on food so nice.
We kept at a steady conversation, but he never once was distracted enough to stop packing what was left. The same couldn't quite be said for me, however. I couldn't hide my pleasedness. He liked the Scotch eggs that I made? What other foods do you like?
Can't recall off the top of me head. I eat simple stuff like baked potatoes or scraps of meat, but it ain't 'cause I like 'em in particular.
Oh.
You gonna help, or you content to stand there?
Pardon me. I'd become stuck on how much you liked the Scotch eggs. I also love them.
Oh. Do you?
Jack resumed his usual quietude, as if uncertain how to respond before continuing his work. It was about time I did the same. By the time the two of us finished, the surrounding area was shrouded in a dense fog. It's gotten very thick, hasn't it? Well, I suppose we ought to meet with the others. They must be waiting. Jack didn't respond. Did you hear me, Jack?
It's nothing.
He knows who the shadowy figure is. He appeared distracted by something. I followed his eyes, and there it was, a shadowy silhouette standing amongst nothing. In that moment, the fog grew rapidly more thick. Jack? I'd only taken my eyes off of him for a second, but by the time I turned back, he was gone. I wasn't fond of being alone like this. I could feel an inexpressible sense of nervousness well up within myself. Jack? Where are you? Wait! Jack! Please say something! I approached the figure with wariness in my steps, but it had yet to become any more clear. Wait! My apprehension grew stronger, but standing in place would do nothing. I decided to continue following it. Oh boy, such dots. Alright. Always take the back alley. See if anything changes here. Okay, Morin. Naturally. Since it's Dad. Aw, Jack was looking for me, though.
Where did you go?
I so worried. Jack! Jack came rushing over, and I had the sense that he'd been in a complete panic till just before.
You bloomin' idiot. First you vanished, and then I...
Have you been looking for me all this time? He didn't answer, but I could hear how irregular his breathing was. Forgive me, Jack. I didn't mean to worry you.
I wasn't.
But you were looking for me, right?
No,
Oh. Still, thank you for fretting to such an extent for my sake.
I said I wasn't.
As much as I tried to thank him, Jack only returned the gesture with a sharp frown and creased forehead. He didn't appear upset with me, so I couldn't say why he looked the way he did. He's just relieved.
You may continue this conversation in the comfort of the carriage. Jack, we shall take you home. I'm fine. I can walk from here.
At least let us take you part of the way.
Why should you?
Because I've caused you so much worry. Please, let me do this for you.
Jack was reluctant, but he did not turn down the offer. Off the carriage went after the three of us climbed in. See what he has to say about his dad. Pendleton's sigh was the first thing to break yet another lengthy silence.
Oh, my lady, I am going to be very frank with you. For heaven's sake, do something about your unfortunate habit of sticking your nose into danger. But she didn't do nothing wrong.
That's sweet of you, Jack, but I did. I was thoughtless. I should have stayed where I was instead of wandering off.
Bah.
I'd overheard something I fear I must discuss, however. Something involving a Colonel Morin.
My lady, where did you hear that?
Jack had no particularly strong reaction, but upon mentioning Colonel Morin's name, Pendleton's expression changed.
It was earlier. There was a man with me in the fog by that name.
Colonel Morin was arrested a long time ago and sentenced to life in prison.
But I heard his name! I can't be mistaken, can I? What if he's perhaps broken free?
No. As far as I'm aware, he's still locked in the Tower of London. Could have misheard, perhaps.
Could've. Probably did. Oh, I thought he was talking about Pendleton, not me. Jack, you're supposed to be on my side.
No,
Could that have been a mere illusion in the fog? The more I tried to follow that line of thought, the more fear wrangled me. At a certain point, I could only shake my head to rid myself of anything more. A part of me knew that would do little to help. I could feel a mist begin to settle over my heart, one that seemed even less likely to clear than that of London's fog. Is that the end of that chapter? My goodness, such dots! Alright, we're out of the common route. Jackroot hype. The Ripper in the Velvet Night. Alright, just jumping right into it with 2 feet, huh? Let's do it.
The night was still and London streets silent. The only noise that could be heard, for not even wind favored a steady hum at the hour, came from 2 silhouettes in a lightless alley.
You're surely aware of why you were called, but you're to eliminate a traitor. Nothing difficult. Simply do as you've always done. This is what gives you value to me, to the organization. Remember this. Naturally, you're to dispose of the body whilst leaving no evidence at the scene. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
The morning was an awful one. The sky billowed with dark, animated clouds, and their heaviness pressed against the ground with an uncomfortable dampness. This, however, did not interrupt my morning routine. Upon sitting down to read the morning paper, I was drawn to the front page's piece on the East End murders.
Whitechapel murderer still on the loose. And what of the police?
The article was underlined with discernible bias from its headline down, continuing to question in less than subtle ways the capabilities of the police. In particular, it highlighted the lack of progress made since the murders of victims Miss Smith and Miss Tabram.
I'm curious why the culprit only appears to have targeted poor prostitutes. It seems safe to assume they aren't doing this for money.
Perhaps they were murdered to set an example. The gangs that control the area show no mercy, not even to the poor when swindling money.
That interpretation does line up nicely with the police's, but how could anyone do something so horrible? Huh. I sighed politely through pouted lips as I perused the article again.
The paper brings to mind the surprising number of abattoirs in that area, too.
What's an abattoir?
It's a place where livestock are slaughtered. Ordinarily, one wouldn't build such a place in the middle of a populated city like London. The exception was made only due to high demand for meat. And yet, with the East End sewage system being so lacking, not to mention how unsanitary its conditions are from every corner...
My! Pendleton was chirping away like a bird this morning. Pendleton, you make it sound as though you've been there before. Have you?
Once, yes. I went to visit a friend who runs a workhouse there, and I'm not soon to forget the sight. Circumstances are so appalling that there are some who survive only by rummaging through the channels. Even then, they risk being swept away by the waters and drowning. Death is frequent to the point where the bodies can't be dealt with fast enough.
My God. How awful. My heart sank. I couldn't search for the right response to such a thing.
My lady, I should hope you aren't developing an interest in the East End because of that article.
No, that's not quite it.
It was Jack who came to mind.
What would Pendleton think if he knew a schoolmate of mine was from there?
I didn't want to imagine it. Apprehension building at the mere thought, I chose to keep quiet regarding the issue. Nothing good would come from telling him about Jack. I mean, he did spend a little bit of time with him. He should be able to tell by his accent that he comes from the East End.
If there's one place in this city you must stay away from, it is the East End. This comes along with my asking that you refrain from recklessness in general.
Is that in regards to my trip to Hyde Park?
Indeed. Need I remind you of how you were found on the verge of tears, lost in the fog, stomach plump from consuming several too many desserts?
That's a horrible way to describe it. And you never found me on the verge of tears. Anxious, perhaps.
I see no significant difference. Listen well, my lady. When you need help or feel danger around the corner, do not act rashly. Call upon your nearest Scotland Yard officer.
Of course, I will.
Our daily conversation was not as pleasant as I'd come to expect, and thus we departed for the carriage minutes earlier than usual. Gotta get out of this awkward atmosphere. The morning was still young when I'd arrived at the academy. By then I was thankful to see the gloomy clouds had passed, granting the day a lovely sky.
I wonder if Jack is sleeping in the courtyard again.
Oh, it's you.
Aw. Well, a pleasant morning to you, Jack.
Thanks. Why do you look so disappointed?
It sounds silly, but I was hoping today would be the day I could keep you from waking up. No matter what strategies I'd conjured in the past to approach him, as if on cue, he would open his eyes once I was close. I'd tried to be stealthy, cautious, quiet, all of the above and more, but each and every attempt had ended in failure. I don't know how you do it. I always take care not to make a peep, too. Ah, I know! You're just sensitive to the presence of others, like an animal.
I ain't doing it on purpose. What does it matter if I wake up? For God's sake, you want to sit, you sit.
Jack, as if to further express this sentiment, eased himself up just slightly to move aside, allowing me to sit next to him more comfortably. True enough. Thank you. He certainly had a coarse way of expressing himself, but he was trying to be considerate in his own way, and that's what mattered. Or, it did in a sense, as it had me feeling rather flustered to see him going out of his way. Still, I accepted the offer and took my place.
Something funny.
Oh, I'm just happy to be able to sit next to you, that's all.
I still don't understand you. What's there to be happy about?
You, of course. Back when we first met, you were almost vigilant in how you pushed everyone away. But now, you let me sit next to you. I can talk to you as much as I'd like.
That's... 'cause you're... Never mind.
And that was that. I doubted any prying and pulling would have him change his mind. What do you want to tell her, man? You got me so curious.
May I ask you something? When you graduate, do you intend to become a detective?
It's not what I want to do, no.
Really? Do you have something else in mind then?
Well, keep helping me dad, I suppose. Desk work and the like.
I see. You're quite the devoted son. I've learned something new.
You think? Though if I'm honest, I'd rather...
Again, he was on the verge of opening up about something personal. I waited.
Jack?
No, forget it.
And again, he cut himself short and changed the course of the conversation. I guess we are early days in his roots still.
What about you? Haven't you got something you want to do?
After graduation, you mean? The question took me by such surprise that even my eyebrows had dressed themselves into my fringe.
Excuse me. Yes, that is quite the surprise.
I shall inherit my family name, though I do hope to lend my aid in solving cases from time to time.
So the sign for you.
I do want to help the victims of crime, of course. But you see, inheriting the Whiteley name is something only I can do. I can't turn my back on that responsibility.
You always look like your head's off in the clouds, but I see you do have your future lined up squarely.
If not for the sweetness of his tone, I may have thought him disappointed.
Now, did you really have to say that first part?
At that moment, my ears happened to catch part of a conversation two students were having as they strolled down the nearby corridor. Please don't have faces. Oh, thank God. Whew. That was a close one. That was close.
The police have been absolutely useless, haven't they? If only I could disagree. We pay them loads in taxes, but where are they when you need them? Nowhere, that's where. Suppose that's life. You have to look after yourself because no one else will. Oh, but with Sherlock Holmes and John Watson helping the investigation, the case ought to be solved in no time.
Ah, yes, the mysterious John Watson.
Yes, I can believe that. I believe in them sooner than the police, anyhow. What's wrong, Jack?
Nothing. I was thinking about how people seem content to run their jaws off where the police are concerned.
I've noticed that as well. There was an editorial in the morning paper arguing the same thing those girls are. They're an easy target for the people to vent their frustrations.
I suppose.
Jack fell silent. It was not a normal sort of silence, but rather the kind charged with energy that begged further conversation, which he finally obliged by asking a curious question.
Do you think so too? That the police are useless?
I pondered the question for a moment before answering. This one, I think.
I just don't think people understand what life was like before Scotland Yard existed.
Hard to believe there was a time, really.
That applies to most of us. I cannot deny the countless unsolved cases remaining in their pile, and certainly there exist scandals that are swept beneath the rug. Yet, if we wish for crimes to be solved quickly, cooperation is the best way to go about it. That holds true as much in modern times as it always has. Mr. Holmes is currently working alongside them, so I dare say he would not disagree. If we went to every citizen in London and asked them if they wanted these murders to end, they would all say yes. Who could earnestly deny the benefit of the police with that answer?
Then you've sided with the police.
Oh, absolutely. Besides, I would think criticizing them and giving up hope is precisely what criminals want us to do, and I won't stand for it.
It's a strange way of looking at things. Then again, you're a strange gal.
What? Do you think so? I thought it was rather common. May I ask your opinion, then? He looked away in thought, giving the question serious consideration before answering. There was no heart for that, so I wonder if I picked the right one. Oh, speak of the devil!
It just took a little bit of time.
I said you're a strange girl, but I feel the same as you.
Well, aren't we a funny pair? We're only as strange as one another, then.
Don't lump me with you.
That's not very nice. You're the one who said something first. Wasn't this the first time Jack had given me an opinion on something so important? As I briefly recalled our conversations in the past, it had occurred to me that he had never been nearly as open before about anything. It's interesting that that's how he feels, considering he's a criminal.
Right then.
Jack mumbled something or other to himself, reached into his pocket, and presented an envelope to which I wore a grand smile at the sight.
Here.
Oh! Is that a new letter for me? Thank you! He held it out before me, waiting for me to take it, whilst my eyes grew nearly twice in size at the prospect of its contents. What have you written for me?
If I told you, you wouldn't have no reason to read it.
True. I just couldn't suppress my curiosity. He could only sigh as I accepted it. You know, I've noticed trading letters in the courtyard has become something of a tradition between us.
Well, I ain't giving you one in the middle of the classroom.
Oh, I understand that. As soon as I finish writing a reply, I'll pass it along right here. My response stalled upon noticing Jack's hand. He knew just as well that I had seen it and made to withdraw it behind him, but before he could, I reached out and cupped it gently between my own. What did we talk about, sir? You gotta take care of your cuts.
What is it?
You've hurt your hand again, haven't you?
Ugh.
A fresh slice was visible across his palm, so fresh indeed that the watery-colored discharge as the wound worked to heal itself was still seeping and settling along the opening. It was painful to even look at, and Jack, fully aware he was in for a scolding, averted his gaze. God! How did you do this? You need to go to the
No.
Jack suddenly grasped the arm that was grasping his own. I paused.
I ain't antiseptic. Didn't I write that to you before?
Oh. He was right. I had once asked him in a letter about the one thing he found most difficult to handle, and to my surprise he gave an answer. The smell of medicine. I feel like that's going to come into play with these Ripper murders. She's going to smell like antiseptic or something and be like, no, it can't be my Jack because he hates this stuff.
So I don't want to go.
Firm as the words were, the voice which said them had grown feeble.
Besides, it'll heal on its own even if I don't do anything.
I couldn't very well force him to go. Left with no other recourse, I took care when holding his wounded hand with both of mine. His first instinct was to pull away.
Ugh.
Stay still for a moment, all right? I hadn't thought he would listen, but he did oblige, and so I went to work binding his hand in a handkerchief I had on my person. There! It looks much better compared to the last time I wrapped it, I think.
It's the same handkerchief as before.
He observed his dressed hand, all the while wearing an expression I couldn't quite read. Was it irritation? Joy? Sadness? Whatever the case, there was something close and distant about it at the same time.
You're too nice for your own good.
Perhaps so, and that suits me fine. Seeing you hurt makes my chest hurt twice as much. I can't turn a blind eye to it. Is something the matter?
No, just that...
That perplexing expression did evolve only slightly, but I still could not make much of it. He seemed to resolve what he felt on his own, however, for the next thing he said was well and truly direct.
Thanks.
Huh? So direct, in fact, that I became fastened in place. I'd never heard anything close to that from him before. A thank you? I can't with this face. It keeps ruining things for me.
That's it then.
He stood up in a hurry, as if he couldn't take another moment of relaxing.
Come on. If we don't get moving, we're going to be late.
You're right! And so I stood in a flushed discomfort as well. I'm still struck from hearing that thank you. I mean, feelings, though. Really, that affected Hart for him. Interesting. I guess because she's like, yay! I can't remember when I last felt this happy. It was hardly the first time I had been thanked. What was it that made Jax feel more special than the ones I'd been given in the past? Because he doesn't say thank you! And you love him. My cheeks, my chest, and even my stomach thumped with warmth. Ah, that warm thump in my stomach. Oh wait, it's just hunger. It was one word. Just one. Who knew I could be affected so?
What are you looking at?
Ah, not a thing, really.
I'm sure.
With that, he turned and walked towards the classroom. I just realized he's never said my name before. He's written it plenty in his letters, but it's not quite the same thing. It's always you and such. Nothing particularly sweet. His showing gratitude gave rise to a new question. How would I feel if he said my name? If the former made me as happy as it did, then I could not wait to hear what effect my own name had on me. Man, she's got it bad. That hope now faintly at the back of my mind, I quickly followed him.